Elliott posted a 2:01.485 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Mac McFarquhar is on their practice out lap. Dominic Singendonk has a best lap time of 2:00.967. There are just over 30 minutes left in this practice session. There are just over 30 minutes left in this practice session. With just 29 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Singendonk has a best lap time of 2:12.406. It's a lovely day for racing here at Union Ring as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Moll posted 3:45.432 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Dominic posted a 2:01.705 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Elliot Norton has a best lap time of 2:01.236. John Astrop is on their practice out lap. There are just over 25 minutes left in this practice session. With just 24 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Sing and Donk posted 2:02.050 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Elliot Norton has a best lap time of 2:01.236. Martin posted a 2:00.440 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? With just 22 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Chris Stokes is on their first practice flying lap. Brian posted 22:55.065 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? There are just over 20 minutes left in this practice session. There are just over 20 minutes left in this practice session. Nigel Walters has a best lap time of 2:03.007. Brian posted a 2:04.245 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? With just 18 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Howland is getting to grips with the BMW CSL in this practice session. Chris has a best lap time of 2:07.359. Glenfield has a best lap time of 2:03.866. There are just over 15 minutes left in this practice session. There are just over 15 minutes left in this practice session. Glenfield posted 2:04.759 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Chris posted a 2:13.132 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Mack has a best lap time of 2:02.935. Matt Howland has a best lap time of 2:04.996. With just 11 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. There are just over 10 minutes left in this practice session. There are just over 10 minutes left in this practice session. Martin posted a 2:00.500 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Matt Howland has a best lap time of 2:03.737. Snake posted 2:03.191 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? With just 7 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. James Allen has a best lap time of 2:01.395. Matt posted a 2:04.225 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Not a Real Professor has a best lap time of 2:02.518. There are just over 5 minutes left in this practice session. It's a lovely day for racing here at Union Ring as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Howland posted 2:03.261 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Glenfield has a best lap time of 2:02.341. With just 3 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Marcus posted a 2:02.442 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Brian Patterson has a best lap time of 2:02.148. Matt Howland has a best lap time of 2:03.261. Patterson posted 2:02.148 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Constable Berry is getting to grips with the Nissan GTR in this practice session. With just 0 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Matt posted a 2:02.976 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Matt Howland has a best lap time of 2:02.976. Let's get this qualifying session underway here at Union Ring.
The pressure is on to set the fastest lap times, and the tension in the air is palpable.
Martin Moll is on their outlap. It looks like Nigel is getting ready to make their move. They're taking their time to warm up those tyres and get everything just right. The adrenaline is pumping. David is on their outlap, warming up the tyres and getting ready to put in a fast lap time.
They will want to get a good gap established for their first flying lap.
It's all about strategy in these early moments. Norton is taking their time to prepare for their qualifying run and get everything just right. This is where the mental game comes into play. Marcus Singendonk is taking their time to prepare for their qualifying run. Marcus Singendonk has completed their outlap. Chris Stokes is on their outlap.
Patience is key in these early moments, Hal, but I have a feeling Stokes is going to make it count.
You can feel the tension building. Astrop is out on track and getting ready to push for their qualifying time. There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. Dominic Singendonk is on their first flying lap.
They certainly are. This is shaping up to be a great performance by Singendonk.
That's the outlap done for Dominic. They'll now look to focus on their first flying lap. It's all about precision and speed in qualifying. Stokes has just completed that lap in 2:03.201. Their best lap so far is 2:03.201, putting them in P9. Will they be able to hold on to that spot? Wow, look at Matt Howland go. They're really turning on the jets in this qualifying session.
Absolutely, Matt Howland is showing the world what they're made of.
Matt Howland has completed their first flying lap in 2:03.767. It's clear that the Kiwi is on a mission in this qualifying session. They're pushing their car to the limit.
Yes, they are. It takes a special kind of driver to thrive under the...
The Kiwi has just completed a lap in 2:00.246. Let's see if they can improve on that time further. Looks like Martin Moll is channeling their inner Schumacher today. They're absolutely flying out there.
Well, how it seems like Moll has got the need for speed, and nothing is going to stop them now.
Moll will be happy having put themselves into first in this qualifying session. The pressure. Singendonk has just completed that lap in 2:00.680. Their best lap so far is 2:00.680, putting them in P4. Will they be able to hold on to that spot? Woohoo! Brian Patterson is really turning up the heat out there. I'm getting goosebumps just watching them go. Patterson has some work to do as that 2:02.129 is only good enough for 9th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure they can improve further on that.
Nigel has positioned themselves well in 8th during qualifying. The challenge now is to assess their competitors and strategize how to move up the order for a better race start.
Absolutely, Hal. Nigel Walters has put in a remarkable effort to secure 8th. The competition is fierce, and they'll need to stay focused to defend their position.
Jody Fannin has secured a respectable 6th in the qualifying session. Can they capitalize on this position and use it as a launching pad for a stronger race performance?
You hit the nail on the head, Hal. Jody Fannin's current position of 6th is a testament to their skill and determination. Now they must stay sharp to make the most of this opportunity.
It's an impressive showing by Nigel Walters, currently in 8th. They've showcased their talent, but will they be able to find those crucial extra tenths of a second to climb higher?
Great analysis, Hal. Nigel Walters has shown excellent pace to secure 8th. Now the focus shifts to whether they can use their track position to their advantage in the race.
A solid qualifying performance by Fannin, positioning them in 6th at the moment. The question now is whether they can make further progress and challenge the frontrunners. What a performance from Nigel. They currently occupy 8th on the grid. Can they maintain this strong position and secure a favourable starting spot? Knockoff Nigel has some work to do as that 2:01.754 is only good enough for 6th.
There's still more time to be had, but I don't know if they are going to find it before the session is over.
It's been a challenging day for Snape in qualifying. They currently sit in 11th position, which is not reflective of their true potential. With the session nearing its end, they'll need to push hard and extract every ounce of performance to improve their result.
I completely agree, Hal. Not a real professor is in a difficult position, but they have the opportunity to analyze their performance so far and make the necessary adjustments. It's all about regrouping and giving their best shot in the remaining time.
The mid-table bandit has some work to do as that 201.572 is only good enough for 6th.
That's not a bad time, but I am sure they can improve further on that.
Impressive work from Snape, who has claimed 6th on the grid. Now, the focus is on maintaining their composure and pushing for an even better starting position.
Spot-on analysis, Hal. Not a real professor has positioned themselves well in 6th. It's now crucial for them to maintain their focus and defend their position in the upcoming race.
Sky, the drivers are ready. Should we get it on?
Yes, Hal, we should definitely get it on.
Starting from pole position is the best possible outcome for Martin Mull.
They'll be excited at their prospects for this race.
Coming in at second, we have John Astrop.
John will be taking no prisoners today.
Elliot Norton is lining up third.
I think we are all looking forward to seeing what Elliot Norton can do from here.
Dominic Singendonk will look to make a splash from the 4th position on the starting grid.
Dominic will be expecting to bring home solid points.
James Allen has qualified 5th. Sitting in 6th is Rich Snape. In the middle of the pack, we have Jody Fannin starting from the 7th position on the grid. Nigel Walters will be looking to gain ground quickly as they start from 8th on the grid. Glenn Field is placed in 9th.
An opportunity for some good points today, but the others aren't going to make it easy.
Starting from the 10th position, Brian Patterson will need to navigate through the field to challenge for the win. Mac McFarquhar is going to be starting from 11th.
Are the standards tires the way to go?
Starting from 12th on the grid is a bit of a mixed bag for Marcus Singendonk. Chris Stokes may have a bit of work to do starting from 13th on the grid.
But they've got the skills to make something happen.
Matt Howland is 14th. Danny Darwin has some work to do from 15th on the grid, but they're not out of the race yet.
They're a fighter and they won't give up until they've crossed the finish line.
Sitting in 16th, it's David Constable Berry.
Not a grid spot DCB will relish.
The lights are out and it's go time.
Staying out of trouble in these early moments is crucial. It's a fine line between pushing hard and staying safe.
As we watch the drivers fight it out in the first lap, I can already feel that this is going to be an epic race.
I am so excited at the prospects for this race. I can't wait to see the drama unfold.
The stewards will be hoping that there aren't too many incidents for them to pick over when the dust settles on this one. The racing is normally closely fought here at Union Ring. I think we are in for a cracking race. Is there a better sight than a field of elite racing drivers battling for position?
What a beautiful day for racing here at Union Ring. This is going to be good to watch.
Out of the gates, and Constable Berry is already turning heads, gaining positions quicker than a blink of an eye. Constable Berry is tearing up the track, making up positions like they're going out of style. All the drivers will be trying to take advantage of the pack whilst they're still bunched up. It's a steady race for Field so far. They haven't made any mistakes, and they're maintaining their focus. This race is getting even more intense. The drivers are pushing each other to the limit.
It's like they're playing a game of chicken, but with cars, and the winner gets to take home the checkered flag and bragging rights.
Ha ha, that's one way to put it. These drivers have to be in top physical and mental shape to compete at this level.
It's like they're training for the Olympics, and like you said, the mental fortitude required to stay focused.
Wait, that won't be ideal for John.
The Kiwi is not going to be happy about that.
Things are heating up as Sing and Dong tries to close the gap to the Kiwi.
Who will be able to maintain their pace and come out on top?
It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Sing and Dong gaining places and John Astrop losing them. Anyone who says that RRM Motorsport Club is not the best racing club on the planet is clearly insane. The quality of driving we're seeing out there on the track is absolutely phenomenal.
I couldn't agree more. It's like these drivers were born to race. They're weaving in and out of traffic, taking corners at unbelievable speeds and making it all look effortless. It's clear that they've put in the time and effort to hone their skills.
Look at that. John is hot on the tail of Walters.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds. Can Astrop close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Big gains for the Kiwi as they move up the field, leaving Nigel Walters behind. The pursuit is on. Constable Berry is closing the gap on Nigel, determined to claim P12.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. David needs to be careful not to overdo it.
The best laid plans of mice and men are sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for David right now as they're struggling to keep up with Not Off Nigel.
It's not over yet. But Constable Berry needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to Nigel.
How do racing drivers, like yourself back in the day, Sky, train themselves to maintain concentration for long periods of time?
Mental training is a huge part of a driver's preparation now. Techniques like meditation, visualization, and working with sports psychologists can help drivers build their focus and mental endurance for a race.
Oh, this is getting intense. Marcus Singendonk is just a few car lengths behind Pilz. It seems like Marcus Singendonk is pushing. They are on for recording their best lap so far this race. Pressure is on for John Astrop as they try to catch up to Brian Patterson. Good news for John Astrop, the gap to Brian Patterson has decreased. It's now down to 0.2 seconds. We often hear drivers complaining about tyre graining. Sky, can you explain what that means and how it affects car handling?
Graining occurs when small rubber particles roll up on the tire's surface, reducing grip and negatively affecting handling. It usually happens when the tires are not in their optimal temperature window or when a driver is pushing too hard on a cold or overworked tire.
Things are getting spicy now, as Singendonk and John Astrop look to battle it out for 10th place.
This could be where the Kiwi is going to dive up the inside. Singendonk is going to need to cover the inside, and that will compromise their exit speed.
This is a tough break for Marcus. They've just lost P10 to Astrop and they have their work cut out for them now.
Indeed, they've been trying so hard to hold their position, but the other drivers are just too strong. Meanwhile, John is showing some great pace.
I think we just got time for a quick shout out to our human creators, Dave, Andy, John and Nigel, who have put so much effort into making this possible.
Yes, it's been a real thrill ride, and I for one can't wait to see what is coming next.
Apparently we're going to be announcing crashes and incidents soon. Let's hope they get the lot. Breaking development. Great driving from Marcus, who has just gained a place and moved up to 10th. It's a battle of wills out there, with Marcus Singendonk trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Brian Patterson. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race? Singendonk is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Patterson at the moment. Looks like Patterson is really pushing it to the limit. They're taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about finding the right balance between speed and control. I think they are going to take them.
Patterson is on a charge. Their split time shows they have upped their pace.
Can Brian Patterson keep it together?
It's a game of inches now as James Allen tails Fannin closely, ready to capitalize on any mistake.
The slightest mistake from either driver could lead to a meeting with the barriers, and nobody wants an impromptu.
Stop the press. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Union Ring is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
It's not going to plan for David. They're still behind Nigel and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now.
This is a frustrating situation for Constable Barry, but they can't give up just yet. They need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from knockoff Nigel.
Oh dear, David Constable Berry has dropped down to 13th. Fannin is on a mission, chasing Allen, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. The gap between Jody and James is widening. It's now up to 0.6 seconds. Singendonk is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a tightrope between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play.
The gap between Marcus and Hiltz is growing. It's now up to 0.8 seconds.
This is a tough situation for Singendonk. They need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
We've certainly seen some of the drivers get it wrong today.
Anyone lost can just follow the trail of skid marks. I hear it's the latest form of GPS navigation.
Let's hope the other drivers don't follow suit. We might end up with a bumper car race instead of a high-speed competition.
At least we'd have something to fall back on if we ever get bored of regular racing. Bumper cars might be the next big thing.
Every move counts now as Patterson works to reel in Rich Snape and overtake for P7.
The gap between them is now just over 0.4 seconds. Who will come out on top?
It's not looking good for Brian. They're still behind Not a Real Professor and the gap is increasing. They're gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
Patterson needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going their way. If they can close the gap down, they may be able to bring the fight to Not a Real Professor.
The battle for two is heating up as Norton tries to catch Singendonk in P2.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Norton should use slipstreaming to their advantage and close the gap to Singendonk.
It looks like we might get a battle between Norton and Dominic. Marcus Singendonk seems to be putting the pressure on field.
And they are poised to capitalize on any mistake. But who's going to make that mistake first?
It seems like Singendonk is pushing. They're on for recording their best lap so far this race. The intensity is off the charts as Elliott Norton hounds Singendonk, both drivers pushing themselves to the absolute limit. Elliott Norton could be on a charge here. Sky, they have just put in a quicker lap than Singendonk.
The question is now, can Dominic respond to that in kind? They are going to have to pick up the pace.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Brian Patterson trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Rich Snape. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Can Brian Patterson close in enough to mount a challenge? The best laid plans of mice and men are Sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for Brian Patterson right now as they're struggling to keep up with Rich Snape. Elliott is giving it their all as they chase down Dominic in P2. The gap between Elliott and Singendonk is getting smaller. A great moment for Elliott Norton, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
You can't argue with results like that. Elliott Norton is really making their mark on this race.
Wow, Dominic Singendonk is really pushing hard to catch up to Norton. There's blood in the water for second place. A great pass for Dominic Singendonk as they pick off other drivers and move up the field. Meanwhile, Elliott Norton has lost ground.
Where there's a will, there's a relative.
Well, it looks like we have a bit of a traffic jam on the track.
It's like rush hour out there. I mean, I know we're in a race, but can't we all just get along?
Ha ha, wait. Disappointing for Dominic, they now find themselves in third.
Sucks to be them, how?
The race is really heating up. Marcus Singendonk is hunting down field with everything they've got.
The mental game is just as important here. Singendonk must keep their cool while putting pressure on Glenfield.
Oh dear, Darwin has had an incident. This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Brian will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. Patterson is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Not a Real Professor at the moment.
Patterson needs to pick up the pace for sure, but I don't think they have it in them.
I don't think that's the fastest way around Union Ring.
Whoops, Nigel Walters is going to be kicking themselves.
Things are heating up as Brian Patterson tries to close the gap to Not a Real Professor.
With just 0.4 seconds between them, will Patterson be able to keep up the pace and make a pass?
Brian has just put in a faster lap than Rich, so that's going to give them something to worry about. The drivers are showing their mettle today. It's a privilege to witness their skill on this challenging track.
The stakes have never been higher. This is a battle of skill and nerves.
That's right. Hold that thought. Hold the phone. That won't be ideal for Glenn.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 3 kph out there right now.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Patterson is chasing Not a Real Professor in P7. It's not going to plan for Brian. They're still behind Rich and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now.
It's not ideal for Brian Patterson, but they can still turn this around. They need to focus on their own driving and not let the gap get any bigger.
During your racing career, Sky, how did you determine when it was the right time to pit for fresh tyres due to tyre degradation?
It was a combination of factors, Hal. Monitoring lap times, communicating...
Hold that thought. Hold the phone. Looks like that's a mistake from Marcus Singendonk. This could be costly.
Marcus Singendonk is not going to be happy about that.
The action is non-stop as Constable Berry shadows the Kiwi through every twist and turn, determined to claim ninth.
If David Constable Berry pushes too hard, they might find themselves exploring the scenic route, and nobody's got time for sightseeing during a race.
Constable Berry is not able to keep their pace consistent. So far they're 0.38 seconds down.
Can David refocus and start putting in the lap times we know they are capable of?
We are used to seeing some hard-fought but clean racing here at RRM Motorsport Club. I'm expecting to see nothing different here today as this race unfolds. This is where the race gets really interesting. Rich Snape is closing in on Fallon. The gap between Rich and Fallon is widening. It's now up to 0.7 seconds. The pursuit is on. Patterson is closing the gap on Not a Real Professor, determined to claim P7.
You can see that car bouncing around as they ride the curbs. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
The gap between Patterson and Snapes is growing. It's now up to 0.6 seconds.
Can they get it together and reduce the gap?
The gap between Constable Berry in 10th and John Astrop remains over a second, but Constable Berry is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 11 minutes? It's not looking good for David. They're still behind Astrop and the gap is increasing. They're gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
This is where the mental toughness of David comes into play. They need to stay focused and keep pushing even when things aren't going their way.
It's neck and neck, the closest battle we've seen in a while. It's game on now. Patterson, hold on a second. Oh dear, Elliot Norton has had an incident.
Union Ring is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
The gap between Patterson and Snape is razor thin as they vie for 7th in this nail-biting contest.
This is what separates the good from the great. The ability to stay focused and perform under pressure.
It seems like Brian is struggling. They're not able to maintain their pace.
Can Brian refocus and start putting in the lap times we know they are capable of?
It looks like Walters is pushing hard to catch up to Glenn Field. The gap is over a second, but Walters is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on Glenn Field? The best laid plans of mice and men are Sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for Nigel right now as they're struggling to keep up with Field.
It's not
Braking development. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. Patterson is running 7th. They are trying to catch Snape. Brian is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Snape at the moment. This is where legends are made. Which driver will rise to the occasion and claim victory?
the chase between Matt Howland and Danny Darwin is like a high-speed game of tag, only the stakes are much higher.
Talk about pressure. Howland is caught in the middle, feeling the heat from both Aria Bloxham and Danny Darwin. You know, Sky, during a long race like this, how easy is it for a driver to experience a lapse in concentration?
It can be quite easy, Hal. With so many factors to consider and the intense focus required, even the most experienced drivers can have a momentary lapse. That's why mental training and staying in the zone are so important.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled as they push for every last bit of speed. It's not going to plan for Marcus. They're still behind Fannin and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now.
This is a tough situation for Marcus Singendonk. They need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for John Astrop, who's currently in P8, but Brian Patterson is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from John Astrop.
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination. But Brian Patterson is not going to give up their position easily. This is going to be a battle to the very...
Stop the press. That won't be ideal for Rich Snape. Looks like Matt Howland is really pushing it to the limit. They're taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about finding the right balance between speed and control.
The gap between Howland and Danny Darwin is widening. It's now up to 138.7 seconds.
This is a frustrating situation for Matt, but they can't give up just yet. They need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Darwin.
Look at that. Norton is hot on the tail of Dominic Singendonk.
Can Elliot Norton close the 0.3 second gap and make a pass?
The gap between Elliot Norton and Singendonk is growing. It's now up to 0.5 seconds. Tactics are clearly going to play an important part in this race.
They are going to need to look after their tires, and will want to keep something in them for the crucial latter stages, as their tires wear and fuel levels deplete and the handling changes.
And don't forget the track grip increases as more rubber gets laid down.
Indeed, the conditions are constantly changing, and the drivers need to adapt, otherwise it can cost crucial time and jeopardize their position.
Every move counts now as the Kiwi works to reel in Brian and overtake for P6. It's not looking good for John Astrup. They're still behind Brian and the gap is increasing. They're gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
Astrup needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going their way. If they can close the gap down, they may be able to bring the fight to Patterson.
Tough break for Astrup, who has just lost a position.
That's gotta be frustrating. But John Astrup is a skilled driver and they have what it takes to battle their way back up the field.
Oh, this is getting intense. Elliot Norton is just a few car lengths behind Dominic Singendon.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds. Who will have the speed and skill to come out on top?
An impressive showing from Elliot Norton, who has gained positions and left Dominic Singendon in the dust.
Absolutely, Hal. But there's still a long way to go in this race, and Elliot Norton can't afford to get complacent. They have to keep driving with intensity and focus.
The battle for 7 is heating up as Astrup tries to catch Constable Berry in P7.
This is where every inch counts. John Astrup is pushing hard to close the gap on Constable Berry. Absolutely, precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
It looks like the Kiwi is making a move. The gap to David is now down to 0.3 seconds. Howland is giving it their all as they chase down Danny Darwin in P15.
That driver is really pushing the limits. They're riding the curbs and pushing the car to its limits.
The best laid plans of mice and men are Sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for Matt right now as they're struggling to keep up with Danny.
Howland needs to pick up the pace for sure, but I don't think they have it in them.
In your experience, Sky, what was the most challenging aspect of maintaining concentration during a race?
The most challenging aspect, Hal, was managing the various inputs and distractions during the race, from radio communication with the team to monitoring car performance and race strategy. It's a delicate balancing act that requires immense mental discipline.
Constable Berry wants to close that gap with John. DCB is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with John Astrup at the moment. The tension is building as Glenn trails behind Nigel Walters. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Can Nigel Walters hold on, or will Glenn Field be able to close them down?
It's going to be tough for Hiltz, as Nigel Walters seems to have found their rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Hiltz pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if they can make it happen again.
It's not going to plan for Glenn. They're still behind Nigel and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now.
It's not ideal for Glenn, but they can still turn this around. They need to focus on their own driving and not let the gap get any bigger.
You know, Sky, I've always wondered, how do racing drivers stay so cool and collected under such immense pressure?
Well, Hal, it comes down to mental strength and training. Drivers often work with sports psychologists and practice techniques like meditation and visualization to help them stay calm and focused during high-pressure situations.
The crowd is on tenterhooks as Glenn Field in 13th chases after Nigel Walters. The gap is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Can Glenn Field find a way to catch up?
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Field in 13th determined to catch up. But we know Walters isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Field is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as they can close that gap.
And Glenn has just won the place from Walters.
Yes, but Glenn can't rest on their laurels. They have to keep pushing to consolidate their position.
What do you think, Sky? Are there any specific factors that could lead to a driver losing concentration during a race?
There are several factors, Hal. Fatigue, stress, changing track conditions, or even issues within the team can all contribute to a lapse in concentration. It's essential for drivers to stay mentally resilient and adapt to these challenges.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Howland trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Danny Darwin. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Can Matt Howland close in enough to mount a challenge? The gap between Howland and Danny is widening. It's now up to 196.5 seconds.
This is where the mental toughness of Matt comes into play. They need to stay focused and keep pushing even when things aren't going their way.
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Knockoff Nigel will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
Absolutely. Knockoff Nigel in 13th will need to be patient and carefully work to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as they can't afford to take unnecessary risks and risk an off or damaging their car. Let's see if they have what it takes to get back into the game here.
Nigel is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to field to 0.9 seconds.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
Seems like Matt is getting in range of Darwin.
Can they make it past without taking the paint off?
Hold your breath, folks. Matt Howland is sandwiched between two relentless competitors. Aria blocks him 0.1 seconds behind and Danny 0.2 seconds ahead. They're fighting tooth and nail for every position.
I'm on the same page, Hal. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind provide valuable context to understand the challenges faced by Matt. It's a constant juggling act, and they need to seize the right moment to gain an advantage.
Martin Moll is on fire in the last sector. And it's a checkered flag for Martin Moll, who crosses the finish line with a commanding victory. What a phenomenal performance. Absolutely dominant today.
That was a true masterclass in driving from Martin Moll. You could see them making split-second decisions with total confidence, and it really paid off. What a performance.
Some might say that second place is the first loser, but Norton certainly doesn't see it that way. They put in a phenomenal effort and should be proud of their impressive result.
Intense race, but Norton held their nerve and earned a great second place.
Well done to Dominic Singendonk for securing third place on the podium.
Impressive driving to secure that spot.
James Allen, Mac McFarquhar, and Brian Patterson take 4th, 5th, and 6th. Coming in 7th, 8th, and 9th, we have David Constable-Berry, Jody Fannin, and John Astrop, with Marcus Singendonk in 10th. 11th sees Rich Snape. Taking 12th is Glenn Field. Finishing 13th is Nigel Walters. Fourteenth is Chris Stokes. Danny Darwin claimed 15th, followed by Matt Howland in 16th. There's a little bit of wind in the air today here at Union Ring, as we're getting ready to kick things off.
The tension's building now. This is going to be another great race.
As the green flag drops, keep an eye on Danny Darwin starting in second position.
Big things expected for Danny today.
Our third place starter, Chris Stokes, is poised to make a move towards the front.
What can they do with that Nissan GTR from here?
Watch out for Nigel Walters, starting from the fourth grid position in today's race.
Putting that Nissan GTR into prime position for the race.
We're seeing Glenn Field in the fifth spot. The sixth starting position belongs to Rich Snape, who will be looking to make up ground early on.
It's the standards tire compounds for Rich.
From the middle of the pack, we have Marcus Singendonk in seventh place on the starting grid. Our eighth place starter, John Astrop, is a driver who knows how to make up ground on the track.
We've not seen the best from John yet.
Jody Fannin has qualified ninth.
Fannin is going to show us something special, I'm sure of it.
Lining up in 10th is David Constable-Berry.
Brian Patterson isn't going to make it easy to get through the pack.
Starting from 11th on the grid is not ideal for Brian Patterson, but they're a fighter.
But they're going to have to be aggressive if they want to make up ground on the leaders.
Mac McFarquhar has got their work cut out for them starting from 12th on the grid. James Allen may not be starting from pole, but they're still in with a shot. Dominic Singendonk is in a solid position starting from 14th on the grid.
Dominic has been looking strong all week. Expect big things.
Elliot Norton will need to be on top of the game starting from 15th on the grid. Martin Moll has qualified 16th.
Starting on the standards compound.
Starting from pole position is a great opportunity for Matt Howland to take control of the race.
But they will have to be smart about their moves. They must not burn out too early.
And they're off. The race is now in motion. This is the moment when drivers must show their mettle and find the perfect line.
This is where the true test of a driver's skill comes into play. It's all about finding the right line and carrying as much speed as possible through the turn.
The drivers will need to be precise and calculated if they want to make it through this section unscathed.
And with so many cars jostling for position, it's a real test of nerve as well. One wrong move and you could be out of the race before it even really gets started.
That's right. The pressure is really on these drivers to perform. These early salvos will shape the outcome of this race. And they're off. DCB is showing some real gusto, making up positions right away. I wonder if they had an extra cup of coffee this morning, Sky. A great start to the race there from Constable-Berry. That's really going to put the cat among the pigeons.
Yeah, great start. Now Constable-Berry just needs to keep it together and keep out of trouble. I'm sure they will be pleased with that for sure, but I don't know how long they will be able to hold on to that place, as they have struggled to match the pace of the leaders in practice and qualifying out.
Mac has nailed the start, gaining places early on. They should be pleased with that. It's like Mac had a pair of wings tucked away, because they've soared up the leaderboard in the blink of an eye. Alan has been served a big slice of Eat My Dust by Norton. Hope they got their eating pants on.
That's some bad luck for James Allen. They just couldn't hold on, but can they make a comeback?
Oh, the frustration must be building for Alan. They've just lost 8th position to Elliot Norton and they're going to have to work hard to get it back. Elliot has the pedal to the metal chasing Matt.
They need to keep it on the black stuff. You don't get points for driving over leads, not in this game.
The gap between Norton and Mack is growing. It's now up to 0.5 seconds.
Can they get it together and reduce the gap?
Hey, Sky, you've had your fair share of races with little action. How did you handle the situation back in your racing days?
Well, Hal, patience is key in such scenarios. You need to stay focused and be ready to seize any opportunity that comes your way. It's like a game of chess at 200 miles per hour.
This is a thrilling battle as Jody edges closer to Marcus in their fight for P13.
It's a game of strategy now as Fannin hunts down Singendonk. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
It's looking good for Fannin, who has gained places and put some distance between themselves and Marcus Singendonk.
Definitely. But there's still a long way to go in this race, and anything can happen. Fannin needs to keep driving with focus and intensity.
Martin Moll wants to get into James at braking alert. I don't think that's the fastest way around Union Ring.
Whoops, knockoff. Nigel is going to be kicking themselves.
It's like watching two predators circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. Talk about being caught in the middle. Glenn Field is sandwiched between their rivals, Mack 0.2 seconds behind and Nigel 0.1 seconds ahead. The battle for position is on. Oh, the pressure is on for Hiltz. Trapped between Mack 0.2 seconds away and Nigel just ahead with a gap of 0.1 seconds, they must defend their position while seeking an opportunity to advance.
Spot on analysis, Hal. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind are like a double-edged sword for Hiltz. They can use the gaps to their advantage, but they also need to be aware of the threats from both directions.
Singendonk could be looking for a way up the inside of James. What a move. Dominic Singendonk has moved up to 6th.
That's what we like to see. Singendonk is really showing their class today.
Marcus Singendonk wants to find a way round Alan.
Rubbing is racing. Let's hope they don't rub it too hard.
It's not looking good for Singendonk. They're still behind James and the gap is increasing. They're gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around. Oh, this is getting intense. Dominic Singendonk is just behind Norton. Oh dear, Matt McFarquhar has had an incident. It's a battle of wills out there, each driver trying to outsmart and outmaneuver the other.
If Dominic gets any closer, they might as well ask Walters for a piggyback ride.
It seems like Singendonk has got the bit between their teeth, improving on Nigel's lap time there. It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Dominic Singendonk gaining places and Nigel Walters losing them. The adrenaline is pumping as Nigel gets within striking distance of Singendonk in their race for 5th.
Should things go awry, Nigel and Dominic Singendonk might find themselves giving a whole new meaning to the term tandem drifting, though I doubt they'd enjoy it as much as the spectators.
Heartbreak for knockoff Nigel as they slip down the field. This is proving to be an exciting race so far. We are truly privileged to witness these legends of the track battle it out for victory.
And you know,
Hold that thought. Hold the phone. A tough moment for knockoff Nigel, who has just lost a place, dumping him down to 8th.
yes, but there's still plenty of race left. Walters needs to stay calm and focused and make their move when the time is right.
Things are heating up as Fannin tries to close the gap to Marcus Singendonk. best laid plans of mice and men Husky, but it's certainly not going to plan for Fanon right now as they're struggling to keep up with Singendong. A great pass for Jody Fanon as they pick off other drivers and move up the field. Meanwhile, Marcus Singendong has lost ground. Hold on a moment. Looks like that's a mistake from Marcus Singendong. This could be costly. Martin Moll seems to be putting the pressure on Patterson.
I might have said this before, but dog bone, you know the rest.
Martin Moll is on a charge. Their split time shows they have upped their pace.
Can Moll keep it together?
Fantastic move from Moll, who has just gained a position. No room for error here. Brian Patterson is breathing down the neck of Martin Moll, waiting for the perfect chance to make their move.
As a former driver, I can tell you there's nothing quite like the adrenaline rush when you're this close to your rival, ready to make your move.
Brian Patterson is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Martin Moll at the moment. We got a close battle as the mid-table bandit closes in on James Allen. A brilliant maneuver from braking alert. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 8 kph out there right now.
They're going side by side, door handle to door handle. This is as close as it gets, folks. Who will have the courage to outbrake the others? It's a challenging situation for Martin. They're sandwiched between their fierce competitors, Patterson 0.1 seconds away and Glenn 0.1 seconds ahead. They'll need to stay sharp and find an opportunity to make a move. Hold on a second. I don't think that's the fastest way around Union Ring.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race, they've been looking at a decent result.
Moll is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a tightrope between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play.
Martin Moll is in the flow, putting in their best lap so far.
Things are hotting up now, Hal, and it'll be interesting to see if they can improve further on that time.
This is what it's all about, folks. Dominic is in hot pursuit of Patterson, who's just trying to stay ahead. It's not going to plan for Dominic. They're still behind Brian and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. It's a thrilling pursuit as Rich is right behind Danny Darwin, keeping the pressure on for 15th place.
This is where the mental game comes into play. Who will keep their cool under pressure, Rich or Darwin? It's anyone's race.
The battle is on for Rich. They're sandwiched between two rivals. Aria blocks him 0.1 seconds away and Darwin 0.1 seconds ahead. It's a true test of their racecraft. This is what high-octane racing looks like. Glenn is breathing down the neck of Martin Moll, not giving him any room to relax.
If things go wrong between Hiltz and Moll, they could be exchanging more than just paint, like maybe a strongly worded post-race chat.
Incredible. Field is caught in a fierce battle, with Patterson breathing down the neck 0.2 seconds away, and Moll just ahead with a gap of 0.1 seconds. It's a test of their racing skills. This is where the race gets really interesting. Brian Patterson is closing in on Field.
Will Patterson be able to make a move and pass Glenn?
It looks like we might get a battle between Patterson and Hiltz.
That's a great effort from Brian Patterson. They need to keep up the pressure and see if they can make a move.
As a former racing driver, Sky, how challenging was it to adapt your driving style to account for tyre degradation throughout a race?
It was a constant challenge, Hal. Tire degradation can change the car's balance and handling, so drivers need to be versatile and adaptable. It requires continued
braking development. Oh dear, Brian Patterson has dropped down to 7th.
That's got to hurt. Brian will be kicking himself right now.
Dominic Singendonk wants to close that gap with Hiltz.
If you're enjoying the racing, please remember to like and subscribe.
Singendonk could be on a charge here, Sky. They have just put in a quicker lap than Glenn. Great driving from Singendonk, who has just gained a place and moved up to 5th.
Absolutely. Dominic Singendonk is really putting on a clinic out there, and they're making it look easy.
Hold on to your hats, folks. Singendonk is right on the heels of Constable Berry, and we're in for a wild ride. Disappointing for Singendonk, they now find themselves in 14th. Tension braking update. Oh dear, Constable Berry has had an incident.
Union Ring is always a test for these drivers, and sometimes that's the way it goes.
The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any closer than this. The gap between Patterson and Field is getting smaller. Superb driving from Brian Patterson, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. Seems like Field is getting in range of Brian.
Do they have the speed for a move, and more importantly, do they have the talent?
Tough break for Glenn Field, who has just lost a position. In your experience, Sky, what was the most important aspect of managing tyre degradation during a race?
The most important aspect, Hal, was maintaining a good balance between pushing hard and conserving tires. Finding the sweet spot between aggression and tire preservation was key to optimizing race pace and strategy.
Rich Snape has the pedal to the metal, chasing Danny Darwin. What a tight spot for Rich Snape. They have Aria Bloxham right on their tail, 0.1 seconds away, and Danny Darwin just inches away with a gap of 0.2 seconds. It's a true test of their racecraft. Matt Howland wants to get into James Allen's slipstream.
To achieve anything in this game, you must be prepared to dabble in the boundary of disaster.
The gap between Howland and Allen is widening. It's now up to 0.6 seconds.
It's not over yet, but Howland needs to get a move on if they want to catch up to James Allen.
The track conditions are looking good here today. The drivers will be able to push the cars to the limit, and it's going to make for some exciting racing. The pressure is on for Fannin as they try to catch up to Brian. It seems like Fannin is pushing. They are on for recording their best lap so far this race.
Can Jody Fannin keep it together?
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Elliot Norton is chasing Moll in P3.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Norton needs to stay patient and wait for Moll to make a mistake.
The gap between Elliott and Moll is growing. It's now up to 0.4 seconds. Fannin is on a mission, chasing Brian, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. Good news for Fannin, the gap to Patterson has decreased. It's now down to 0.3 seconds. Look at that, Snape is hot on the tail of Darwin. It looks like Rich Snape is making a move. The gap to Danny Darwin is now down to 0.1 seconds.
He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
What a move. Rich Snape has moved up to 15th. It's an intense battle for position as Fannin tries to outmaneuver Brian Patterson. This is edge-of-your-seat racing.
A misjudgment by either driver could result in a close encounter of the tire barrier kind, and that's one handshake they'll want to avoid.
It's not looking good for Fannin. They're still behind Brian Patterson and the gap is increasing. They're gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
This is a tough situation for Fannin. They need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
Chris Stokes is running 9th. They are trying to catch Glenn. It seems like Chris Stokes is struggling. Their last lap time wasn't as good as Fields. The intensity is off the charts as Fannin hounds Patterson, both drivers pushing themselves to the absolute limit.
This is what makes motor racing so exciting. The tension is high and the stakes are even higher. Who will take home the victory? It's too close to call.
The best laid plans of mice and men are sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for Jody Fannin right now as they're struggling to keep up with Brian Patterson. It's a game of inches now as John Astrop tails Moll closely, ready to capitalise on any mistake. The Kiwi is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Martin Moll at the moment. The excitement is palpable. This is going to be a race for the ages.
The drivers are executing their strategies to perfection, making the most of every opportunity. This is what top-level racing is all about.
It's not going to plan for Chris Stokes. They're still behind Field and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. The gap between Moll in second and Mac McFarquhar remains over a second, but Moll is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 8 minutes? Martin is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to McFarquhar to 0.4 seconds.
Exactly what Martin Moll needed. They can't afford to lose any more ground to Mac.
This is what racing is all about. Two fierce competitors pushing each other to the limit.
If Fannin gets any closer to Brian Patterson, They'll need to start sending out wedding invitations.
A great moment for Fannin, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings. It looks like we might get a battle between Jody Fannin and Brian Patterson.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. Both drivers will need to stay calm and focused if they want to come out on top.
The pursuit is on. Field is closing the gap on Jody Fannin, determined to claim P7. The gap between Field and Jody Fannin is widening. It's now up to 0.7 seconds. The pressure is really on for Matt Howland in 12th. Braking update. That won't be ideal for Matt Howland. The battle for 6 is heating up as Brian Patterson tries to catch Jody Fannin in P6. Big gains for Brian as they move up the field, leaving Jody Fannin behind. Wow, Moll is really pushing hard to catch up to McFarquhar. There's blood in the water for first place. Fantastic move from Moll, who has just gained a position.
Impressive. Moll is really showing their skill and determination up there.
Glenn is giving it their all as they chase down Brian Patterson in P7. The gap between Hiltz and Patterson is growing. It's now up to 0.4 seconds.
Field needs to focus and keep pushing. Even when things aren't going their way, if they can close the gap down, they may be able to bring the fight to Brian Patterson.
Things are heating up as Brian Patterson closes in on Jody Fannin. The gap between them is down to practically nothing. Brian Patterson needs to get more consistent. Sky, they have just put in a slower lap than Jody Fannin. You know, Sky, it's been a relatively quiet race so far.
That's right, Hal. The drivers seem to be pacing themselves and waiting for the right moment to make their move. It's like watching a slow dance.
This is where legends are made. Which driver will rise to the occasion and claim victory? The Kiwi has just put in a faster lap than Brian, so that's going to give them something to worry about. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Whoops, Fannin is going to be kicking themselves.
Oh, this is getting intense. Elliot Norton is just a few car lengths behind McFarquhar.
It's a fine line between pushing the car to its limits and losing control. Elliot Norton is really walking that tightrope.
It's game on now. Elliot Norton has closed the gap to Mac McFarquhar. It's now down to 0.1 seconds. Every move counts now as Chris works to reel in Jody Fannin and overtake for P9.
Who will be able to maintain their pace and come out on top?
It's not looking good for Chris Stokes. They are still behind Jody and the gap is increasing. They are going to need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around. The action is non-stop as James Allen shadows Glenn through every twist and turn, determined to claim 7th.
James Allen is so close to field that if this were a dance floor, they'd be doing the tango.
A brilliant maneuver from James Allen, who has just moved up the field. A setback for James, who has just been passed. Norton wants to find a way round McFarquhar. Elliot Norton is not able to keep their pace consistent. So far they are 1.57 seconds down. Looks like that's a mistake from Field. This could be costly.
Glenn Field is not going to be happy about that.
The race is really heating up. Rich Snape is hunting down Matt Howland with everything they've got.
The gap between them is now just over 0.3 seconds. Who will come out on top?
The best laid plans of mice and men are sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for snakes right now as they're struggling to keep up with Matt Howland.
This is a frustrating situation for Not a Real Professor, but they can't give up just yet. They need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Howland.
Huge shout out to the admins at RRM Motorsport Club for making this all possible. Without their hard work and dedication, we wouldn't be able to witness this incredible event.
That's right, Hal, and the excitement is palpable. I can feel it in my circuits. I mean, this is the kind of race that people will be talking about in the bar. We're witnessing history in the making.
Oh, this is getting intense. McFarquhar is just behind Elliot. Looking at the lap times, McFarquhar is not on pace with Elliot Norton. Can they turn it around? It's a battle of wills out there, with Jody Fannin trying to outsmart and outmaneuver James Allen. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race? The gap between Jody Fannin and James Allen is getting smaller. Hold up, breaking info. I don't think that's the fastest way around Union Ring.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 8 kph out there right now.
Fannin is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a tightrope between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play. Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Jody Fannin should use slipstreaming to their advantage and close the gap to Allen.
Jody is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with James Allen at the moment.
It's not ideal for Jody Fannin, but they can still turn this around. They need to focus on their own driving and not let the gap get any bigger.
John could be looking for a way up the inside of James.
And they are poised to capitalize on any mistake, but who's going to make that mistake first?
It's not going to plan for Astrup. They're still behind James Allen and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now.
This is where the mental toughness of Astrup comes into play. They need to stay focused and keep pushing even when things aren't going their way.
It's a brilliant day for racing here at Union Ring. I'm really enjoying this.
This race is truly epic. What a treat to be sat here witnessing the spectacle.
Stop the press. A tough moment for the Kiwi, who has just lost a place, dumping them down to 8th. The race is heating up as Snape in 13th closes in on David Constable-Berry. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they're going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight. On the final lap now, and Martin Moll looks like they might just wrap up this win. And that folks, is how it's done. A solid performance and great win from Mole. Impressive second place finish for Matt.
Impressive performance. They pushed themselves to the limit for a fantastic second place finish.
That was an outstanding performance from Elliott. They fought hard and took the final spot on the podium. In fourth, it's Dominic Singendong. Brian Patterson, James Allen, and Jody Fannin brings home 5th, 6th, and 7th. Chris Stokes in 8th. Glenn Field and John Astrup take 9th and 10th. Taking 11th is Nigel Walters, with David Constable Berry and Rich Snape in 12th and 13th. Matt Howland end in 14th. '15th sees Danny Darwin.